to the Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zammit. Now, let's get on with the news, views, reviews, and interviews. And fun fact, this is actually sun appearing me at the moment. The sun is getting brighter here in Melbourne, Australia. We have the sun, the summer, brighten, shine during the later part of the year. Just to let you know, it's starting to get sunny. And the studio has a bit of a window over there. And that's why it is appearing on me right now. Just to let you know. So let's get on with the news. The news at the moment is Ahsoka Season 2. As it's been finished filming. It's finished filming. Ahsoka Season 2, which is a live action TV series for Disney Plus. It's finished filming. It's in the editing process, all that type of process. But rumors are running wild. What is happening with Ahsoka? What's this? What's that? With the hardcore, there is actually quite a niche for hardcore fans with Ahsoka. Not all hardcore Star Wars fans like Ahsoka. There's a big contingent that don't, but they are running wild at the moment. It's more than I'd say it's about more than a year out until we get the actual series, Season 2. And that's just letting you know, rumors are running wild. Who's going to be the main villain? Who is going to come back? Who is not coming back? Things like that. Which is sort of good news because it's, causing conversation. Especially with Ahsoka, which was received not really the best by the fans. Most fans. Not most fans. Part of the fans. Anyway, so that's one bit of news. The other bit of news is, yes, once again, no news is good news with Starfighter and Mandalorian and Grogu. So there is one little bit of news with Starfighter. An image has appeared in a convention of some sort overseas. Not sure exactly where it was. I've misplaced where it was, but there was a look to what is happening in the next year or two with Disney, and there was an image with the Starfighter title, and in the image was the Millennium Falcon, the iconic starship in Star Wars, as sort of like mock-up poster or just mock-up sort of thing. Whether that was just to sort of put in a quick sort of do or whatever it is. But if you look closely at this image, it's actually the Millennium Falcon from the old. It is got a circle satellite dish. The newer updated Millennium Falcon has a square or rectangle satellite dish on top. But this one had round. So this is suggesting to me it is a mock-up image, and obviously something with the Millennium Falcon is going to play a role in this particular film. Being a starfighter, being a starship, I don't think that's going to be the actual starship that's going to be presented, but I'm sure it will make an appearance. Anyway, so that is the news for this time around. Let's get into the views. Views is my story ideas that doesn't exist out there besides my head. And it doesn't mean I don't accept the story for Star Wars as it is, because I do. I love Star Wars for what it is. Yes, there's ups and downs. Yes, there's things that we like and don't like. But I am going to give you a story idea because ever since the dormant time, really, Star Wars kids, Star Wars people, even just normal kids, if you were to think of it that way, always created a version of Star Wars. When the figures were released in 1978, because it was after the release of the initial release, for reasons we can explain later on. But, people were creating their own stories. It just created made the imagination of each child go wild. Anyway, my story idea this time is to sort of centralize around Ahsoka season 2. Now, who is going to be the main villain? It's more of a question type story idea, and yet again, it's a very basic story idea. Um, a couple of the rumors, one of the rumors, which I think it's sort of a good thing and a bad thing. Now, there's two things in Star Wars that I probably disagree with as a story idea from George Lucas himself, because it really puts a really hard way of telling the story. One is Jedi's actually loving, sort of, it has the hero, technically the Jedi come off like heroes, and it has them, it doesn't have them have a love interest, which really adds to the hero sort of feel, which is a little bit typical, but it does work that way. The other thing is, when a Sith person dies, Sith person or Sith creature or whatever, Sith dies, there is no ghost. Really, it would be the perfect, great idea as a ghost. I think in Ahsoka 2, the only realistic way you could have someone like Darth Maul come back, rather than just come back from an unbelievable death and just recreate it somehow, which has happened, is to be a haunting spirit. Sith, a haunting spirit. Excuse me. A haunting spirit. That is a great idea. A great story idea that I think would just work big time. But we can't really have it if they're going to stick to the George Lucas ideals, then really it cannot happen. Anyway, but that is my story idea. I would like to see Darth Maul to come back as a ghost, a haunting ghost. He technically died finally on Tatooine by the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it would be sort of good that he would haunt parts of the universe and where he actually was born, which is a planet called Dathomir. And that's where they sort of, those Darth Maul type characters, creatures sort of reside. And it would be good if that was the, but really Dathomir is a really haunted place in a way. You want to sort of create, a place that is of good and fun and happiness and haunt that. That, sounds a little bit psycho, but, that would actually work more with the idea of haunting. Because haunting a place that it's already haunted, it, kills it a bit. Haunting a place that is just full of fun and happiness is actually a good idea. That's my story idea this time around. So let's now move on to reviews. Reviews this time around, is going to be something unusual. Sort of what I just did then. That was a mug. Not a Star Wars mug, but a David Letterman Late Show mug that I've had since the dawn of time. And it's the only mug I use for coffee, as a fun fact. But this here is one of my most prized possessions. It was given to me as a birthday gift, and it sort of comes off, like the mug comes off like it's a futuristic mug, but it's actually character. This is one of my Star Wars mugs. It's actually a clone trooper. I've never used it as for a coffee mug, but it's just so, look, if you did not know this was a head of a clone trooper, it just looks something very futuristic. I just like how it's sort of using shape and sort of color, black and grey, and which is black and white and not colors. They're shades technically, but it gives it a futuristic look. The only problem with this mug is that it's sort of a bit hard to drink it this way because it's the way it's shaped and stuff like that. But it's so good. I just love this. This to me is this is a 10 out of 10 for me. Look, it wouldn't be really worth a lot out there sell wise. You could get money for it. I mean, they're not widely available. This is a very old mug. This is at least 20, I'd say 25 years old. Yeah, but it's, for me it's a 10, but it's not a big sellable mug. 10 out of 10 for my review. And don't get me wrong, I don't have everything that's a 10 out of 10. I have a lot of things that, you could just mediocre, but I just think this is a 10 out of 10. It was given to me as a gift, Clone Trooper mug, and that's the review this time around. Let's get into now interviews. Interviews is pretty much at the moment conducted by a guy named Michael from Werribee South. Werribee South, again, is a part of Melbourne, Australia. It's on the west side. Nothing against the west side kids. But here in Melbourne, it's a little bit more darkened area. Yeah, a bit more darkened area. I think the bridge causes a bit of a shadow. There's a bridge, Westgate Bridge. Causes a bit of a shadow in that area. Just a bit of humour there. Just in case you didn't get that. But anyway, Michael from Werribee South asks first, which tree-covered planet do Wookiees come from? Well, that's so easy. Kashyyyk. That's where they come from. Kashyyyk. That's the planet. That's where they come from. Question 1 answered. For Michael, Werribee South. These questions that he gives us, it's for him to learn as well. He's in a learning process with Star Wars as well. And I think he's a Star Wars fan, but he's becoming a bigger Star Wars fan, which is great. Become a Star Wars fan. You don't have to know everything. I don't know everything, let me tell you that. So the second question, what type of crystal is used in Star Wars universe as a power source of lightsabers? If you're a Star Wars fan, this is pretty much a staple. Just for Michael from Werribee South to know. But really it is the Kyber crystal. So Kyber crystal, it is actually also what powered the weapon on the Death Star, the big planet destruction weapon on the Death Star. It's what powered it. And they were, I suppose, mining it, if that's what you would do, mining that crystal to get stacks of it to use it in the weapon of the Death Star. Especially the first Death Star. Second one, I think so, but the first Death Star, yes. First Death Star appeared in the original 1977 Star Wars A New Hope. Anyway, so the next question Michael asks is, when Obi-Wan performed the blood test on Anakin, how high was the midichlorian count? There is a bit of a mistake with this. Now, he said when Obi-Wan performed the blood test on Anakin, how high was the midichlorian count? Technically, it was not just Obi-Wan. It was also Qui-Gon Jinn. Now, that's a bit of a sort of fun fact. Now, technically, he did go through the procedure in the ship and the final analysis. Yeah, so it was done. It was pretty much a combined effort through. So Qui-Gon took the sample. He then transported it through some technology, Star Wars technology. He then tested it, but it was a combined effort between Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who was Qui-Gon Jinn? Qui-Gon Jinn, technically at that point, was Obi-Wan Kenobi's master, Jedi master. And so anyway, how it was over 20,000. It was said quite clearly in The Phantom Menace, over 20,000. And it was, I think, to this point in time, the highest midichlorian count, I think even surpassing from what I remember, Yoda. Anyway, so the next question is while filming The Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader did not actually say, "No, I am your father," in order to keep the film's big twist under wraps. What line was spoken instead? So just to let you know, in Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader revealed to Luke, "I am your father." Now, just take yourself back to 1980, all you old kids out there. Big twists, internet, things like this really didn't, cause, especially in Australia, a big sort of like sensation. Coming to The Empire Strikes Back, it just came out and we saw it. So there was no real lead up here in Australia from me knowing as a young kid. I would have been about 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old. And so there was no lead up to understanding there's a big twist in this film because, that would have caused a lot of sensation. So it was a type of big twist that we got to know in the film without knowing there was a big twist. And as internet was not around then, the most hardcore, fun communication device at that point was CB radios. Not many people had those. It was, just, as we call them here in Melbourne, Australia, bogans or possibly the cops. Bogans, that's another thing to understand in Australia, which I can get into if you'd like me to answer at another episode. But anyway, so what line was said, that's what he is saying, "No, I am your father," was, "No, I killed your father." That's what was said on the set. The only people that knew was Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, the director, I've forgotten his name, but he's a legendary director because he directed probably a lot of Star Wars fans' favourite film, Empire Strikes Back, and George Lucas. There was only 3 people that knew that "I am your father," that Darth Vader was the father, not the killer, at that point in time. That would have been remarkable. And after then, it's pretty much a Hollywood tale. We all know that Darth Vader is Luke's dad. Anyway, the next question: which holiday does Han Solo celebrate with Chewbacca on his home planet Kashyyyk in the 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special? Just as a fun fact, it's the only Star Wars thing that I can't stand watching. A lot of Star Wars fans are the same, but God, it is just really hard to watch. It's just, ugh. I actually remember at the time when it actually aired here in Australia, I somehow remember my mum was vacuuming and we're watching this special. It was just sort of like annoying because the way she would vacuum would just get in the way and the sound and stuff like that. It was crazy. But so technically it's the Christmas. Christmas was the holiday. Technically the way he's asked this question, which holiday does Han Solo celebrate with Chewbacca? It's the Christmas special. That's what it is. Now, next question, which planet is the Jedi Temple located on? Well, that's an interesting question because there is a number of Jedi temples. A number scattered through the universe. There was probably one all-powerful one, but there is a number of Jedi temples across the universe. Which planet is the Jedi Temple located on? Well, there's a number of the planets. One of them we got to sort of see in the later episodes, episodic, cinematic episodes. 7, 8, and 9. That's episode 7, 8, and 9. You see, you get that sort of in that sort of that era of Star Wars on the cinema, big screen. But yeah, so there's a number of Jedi temples. Now, the next question, the final question, how many of the 9 movies in Star Wars Skywalker Saga were directed by George Lucas? Well, that's easy. The Force Awakens... Whoa. Let's do this in order. The Phantom Menace, Episode 1, Attack of the Clones, Episode 2, Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3, and Star Wars, as it was known then, but it then turned into A New Hope, renamed after the movie release, Episode 4. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 were other directors. Now, to be honest, George Lucas gets a lot of flack in how he directs. But he also gets a lot of praise. That first ever released film, 1977, A New Hope, a Star Wars, was so explosive and is so flawless, it's just art on screen. The other ones, we're going to have to sort of, rank them in different ways because they weren't as good as that. But, he also did direct a Revenge of the Sith, which to me is probably the ultimate type of Star Wars story because it was the darkness involved in that film. The story in that sort of film was great. But he does get a lot of flack in that film for certain directorial points. But anyway, yeah, so he did pretty much 4 episodes of the 9 at this stage, and I'd say forever. Anyway, that's the interviews this time around. That is the show for this time around. Until next time, my friends, keep rocking.